Today on Political Access, we're going to go through each state and take a look at the presidential shifts between 1992 and 2020. It's almost 3 decades worth. There's a lot of shifts in some of these states, and in other states, some of the shifts are much smaller, and they're almost voting in line these days to where they were voting back in 1992. So if you want to skip ahead to the map, there will be a chapter down below in the description. Other than that, I've got my usual spreadsheet I made, and we've got the states here in the first column. The 1992 Democratic vote, that's Bill Clinton. The 1992 Republican vote, that's George H.W. Bush. He was running for re-election, and he was defeated by Clinton. The next column, the 2020 Democratic vote, that's Joe Biden, followed by the Republican vote in 2020, that's Donald Trump. Then the Democratic shifts between those 2 years, then the Republican shifts, and finally the last column is the net change between the two parties between these two elections. And then there's also the usual shading. The lightest colors, those are going to be under 5-point shifts. The very darkest, red and blue, those will be 10 or more point shifts. And we also have to keep in mind in 1992, Ross Perot, he ran third party, and he had a strong performance. He got over 20% in some states, so that's a huge factor as to why both of these parties usually gain some support with these shifts. So let's get started here in Alabama. In 1992, Bill Clinton got 40.9% of the vote. George H.W. Bush got 47.7%. Jump ahead to 2020, Joe Biden got 36.6%, Donald Trump got 62%. That's a net loss of 4.3% for the Democrats, a net gain of 14.3% for the Republicans, and a total net shift of 18.6% toward the Republicans. It's a big shift in a southern state like Alabama. There's going to be some of these patterns and trends. And now let's quickly go through the rest of these states. In Alaska, both parties gained double digits, but there was almost no net change, only 0.8% toward the Republicans. In Arizona, there was a very competitive state back in 1992, just like it is today. There was a big gap in there where it became a red state, but now it's back to being a purple state, and during that span, it shifted 2.3 toward the Democrats. In Arkansas, that state lurched really hard toward the right, over 45 points toward the Republicans. California went 15.8 toward the Democrats. Colorado went 9.3 toward the Democrats. Connecticut went 13.6 toward the Democrats. Delaware also went double digits, 10.7 toward the Democrats. Florida had very little change there, only 1.4 toward the GOP. Georgia had even less of a change, only 0.3% toward the Republicans. Hawaii went 18% toward the left. Idaho went 17.2 toward the right. Illinois, 2.6 away from the Republicans and toward the Democrats. Indiana, and even 10% toward the Republicans. Iowa, big shift there, 14.2 toward the Republicans. Kansas, 9.6 toward the Republicans. Kentucky had a massive shift toward the Republicans. Bill Clinton won that state in 92. Since then, it's gone 29.2 toward the GOP. Louisiana did similar with Clinton winning it in 92, and then it swung 23.2 toward the Republicans. Maine, the state at large as a whole, went only 0.7% toward the Democrats. The next state is Maryland, and that went a big 19% away from the Republicans and toward the Democrats. Massachusetts, similar, 15% toward the Democrats. Michigan went 4.6 toward the right. Minnesota also went 4.5 to the right. Mississippi 7.6 toward the Republicans. Missouri had a huge shift, 25.6 toward the Republicans. Montana 18.8 toward the Republicans. Nebraska 1.9 away from the Democrats toward the Republicans. Nevada had almost no change, only 0.3% toward the Republicans. New Hampshire 6.1 toward the left. New Jersey also to the left by 13.5. New Mexico, same direction by 2.2. New York, also toward the Democrats, by 7.4. North Carolina, small change there, only 0.6% toward the Republicans. North Dakota, big 21.3 shift toward the GOP. Ohio, just under 10 points, 9.9 toward the right. A big lurch for Oklahoma toward the right by 24.4. Oregon went in the opposite direction by 6.1. Pennsylvania, 7.9 toward the Republicans. Rhode Island, a modest 2.8 toward the Democrats. South Carolina, 3.6 toward the right. South Dakota had a big shift again toward the Republicans by 22.6. Tennessee, it's another state Bill Clinton won in 92, but in 2020 it shifted 27.9 toward the Republicans. Texas, a small shift there, 2.1 toward the Republicans. Utah, that's the state Ross Perot did his best in. He actually beat out Bill Clinton there for second place. Since then, small shift 1.7 toward the Republicans. Vermont, just under 20 points, 19.7 toward the Democrats. Virginia, that used to be a red state, not anymore. It shifted 14.5 toward the Democrats. Washington went 7.8 toward the Democrats. West Virginia had the biggest shift of all. Clinton easily won that by double digits in 92. Since then, it's gone an astonishing 51.7% away from the Democrats and toward the Republicans. Wisconsin had a small 3.6% toward the Republicans. And finally, the last state is Wyoming, and that went 37.7% away from the Democratic Party and toward the Republican Party. So those are the states, but I also threw one more in here, Washington, D.C. We know it's super blue, but it's on here anyway, and that shifted 11.3 toward the Democrats. So that's all the data, and if you want to help visualize that data, we can apply it all to a map, and here it is. And it's the same basic shading. The darkest colors are 10 or more point shifts. The very lightest colors, those are under a 1 point shift. Those are the tilt margins. So there's 4 levels of shading from under 1 point to over 10 points. And this is a mixed map. There's a lot of red on here, a lot of dark red. But there's also certainly some blue on here. Most of that is on the West Coast and on the East Coast, especially the Northeast. And some of these states were competitive 30 years ago, like Arizona, Nevada, and Georgia. Since then, they've had their own political realignment. But now that alignment might be going back to what it was, as these are some competitive states. And in 92, George H.W. Bush was defeated in his re-election bid. That was 3 straight terms of Republican presidents. The country was in the mood for something new. Bill Clinton, he's from Arkansas. He was young. He had energy. He was a little bit different. And Ross Perot was in the race. It's debatable if he cost Bush from winning re-election. If Perot was not in the race, it's possible Bush would have gotten enough support to win re-election. We're never really going to know, but Ross Perot did get a significant amount of support for a third-party candidate. He got close to 19% nationwide. And Bill Clinton won with a plurality of 43%. George H.W. Bush got 37.5%. So a lot of the counties are light blue, because there were 3 relatively strong candidates in this race. So Clinton pulled it out. He didn't do too bad in the South. He won some of those states, and we all know since then, especially after 96, those states have swung very hard toward the right. The Rust Belt is competitive now, and some of these blue states have gotten extremely blue since then, and Republicans have no chance. This was pretty much the beginning of a political realignment. In 1988, George H.W. Bush, he won a lot of states that we would consider blue states today, and a lot of those blue states have not voted Republican since. In other states like Virginia, it's hard to imagine that was a red state, but it was, and it was red for a long time after this election as well. It wasn't really until 2008 that it started to become a modern blue state. So this is the map. These are the shifts. I hope you enjoy seeing this kind of data and then visualizing it on the map. I even threw in the shading for Nebraska and Maine's congressional districts, so feel free to draw any conclusions you'd like. Let me know in the comments. What do you think about any of the shifts in any of these states? Let me know down below. On your way out, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Thank you for watching, and I will see you on the next video.